Welcome to the scientific nap, a calm space for sleep, stories, and stillness. Let go of the day and drift into rest. Float gently into dreams where calm thoughts cradle you to sleep. Tonight, each word guides you deeper into softness. Feel your breath slow, your mind quiet, your body sink into peace. It begins in a darkness so complete, you can hear your own thoughts moving. They pass like slow tides through you, carrying no words, only the feeling of waiting. Around you, the universe is still no wind, no warmth, not even the memory of light. If you stretch out your hand, you touch nothing, and yet the nothing has weight, as if it is watching for the same thing you are. At first, there is only the shifting of distance. The dark is not still, after all. It flows. You drift with it through vast plains of cold hydrogen, veils of helium folding like silk in invisible currents. These clouds are the first shapes the universe has made, but they have no edges, yet intentions. You move as if inside a sleeping lung, each swell and exhale impossibly slow. Somewhere ahead, a faint thickening of the dark draws you closer. It is not light not yet, but a density that pulls without touch. The gas begins to fall. Inward, circling itself, compressing in patient spirals. The currents no longer feel endless. They have a center now, and you are being pulled toward it. The silence changes. It gains a texture, a soft vibration at the edge of hearing. You sense it more than hear it, like the low hum of something too large to see. The clouds fold tighter. Pressure rises in the unseen heart ahead, squeezing matter until its particles press into each other with no room to move. The space between them disappears. You do not rush. Nothing here rushes, but as you draw near, you feel the moment approaching when the dark will no longer hold. The weight becomes heat-thin at first, like the ghost of warmth on skin after the sun has set. The hum deepens, and the airless void begins to quiver. Then dash light. It does not burst so much as bloom. The center blossoms from ember to flame, its edges feathering into gold and white. The glow pushes outward, carving shadows into the still-forming clouds. You feel it pass through you like a memory of fire, like the warmth of someone standing close enough for their breath to mingle with yours. This is the first star, the first act of defiance against the cold infinity. The newborn light stirs the space around it. The gas that once drifted without direction now curls in its pull, forming rivers that glint like molten metal. You drift closer, carried by the slow wind of radiation flowing outward. The heat is not sharp. It is steady, an anchor in the vastness. Closer. Still, you see the star's surface shifting and heaving, waves of plasma rolling like oceans of light. Each crest throws arcs of matter into space, ribbons of fire that curve back in under the pull of gravity. These are not flares you can hear, but you feel their rhythmically long, patient pulses that mark the heartbeat of something too young to have a name. You hover at the edge of its reach, feeling the delicate balance between falling inward and drifting away. Around you, the darkness is no longer empty, it is painted in gradients, from the deep blue of untouched space to the pale gold that brushes the outer shells of gas. Dust gathers in faint rings, catching light like sparks on water. The warmth becomes a language you begin to understand. It speaks of fusion of hydrogen reshaped into helium, of mass turning into energy. You do not need to know the equations. The truth of it is in the way your skin seems to hum in answer. You realize the star is not just burning, it's remembering. It is shaping itself from the same material you drifted through moments ago, as if it were weaving its own body from the memory of the dark dot, as you watch tiny seeds of matter begin to spiral together in the faint light beyond the star. They gather slowly, catching each other in soft collisions, sticking, spinning. The star feeds them with its warmth, as though promising more to come. The beginnings of planets still shapeless. Still only thoughts in the mind of gravity form like whispers in the dust. You feel yourself being carried outward on the tide of light. The star grows smaller behind you, not because it is fading, but because space is stretching between you and it. In its glow, the surrounding clouds glow too, like lanterns lit one by one in the night. You realize this is only the first of many. The universe is waking up. Ahead, the light thins, returning to a dim blue haze. But now the darkness feels different. It has been altered. Once it was empty, now it is expectant, holding the echo of the star's warmth. You carry that warmth with you, as if it has marked you. The current shifts again, carrying you toward a swirl of dust and light in the far distance. Its shape is uncertain, but there is motion in it, a slow rotation that tugs at the edges of your perception. The memory of the star's birth lingers in your skin, but the pull ahead is something else entirely. The haze grows thicker, richer in color, flecked with glittering grains that turn as they fall. You sense that you are approaching a place where matter will gather again, not into a flame this time, but into something that will hold flame close, wrapped in stone and air. The pull deepens. The haze brightens. Something is beginning to take shape. The pull deepens. The haze brightens. Something is beginning to take shape. The light ahead swells, not in a flash, but in slow, deliberate spirals. Threads of dust twist around an invisible center, each grain glinting briefly as it drifts through the glow. The air, if it is air, carries the faintest scent of warm stone and faraway rain. As if a memory of weather is sifting down through time, you find yourself moving without walking, drawn along these circling ribbons. They wind tighter, their edges combed by unseen tides. Pebbles appear where once there was only dust, their surfaces pocked and glimmering. They tap and graze one another, some merging with a soft hiss, others breaking apart into clouds that drift lazily before being pulled back in. It is a quiet chaos, an ancient ballet of collisions. The center grows brighter still, a young star wrapped in the slow whirl of its making. Around it, this disk stretches wide, light on one side, shadowed on the other, like a coin caught mid-toss. In the dim regions, cold matter clings together, shy of the heat. In the bright arcs, gold sparkles in every motion, as if each turning was a secret moment caught by a watchful sun. You pass close to one of the denser knots in the swirl. It hums faintly, not like sound, but like a vibration felt in your ribs. Pebbles here are no longer separate, they press into one another, soft edges melting into larger bodies. The moment of joining feels slow and inevitable, like droplets merging on a window pane. Somewhere deep in the spiral, the collisions grow louder, more certain. Two stones meet with enough force that their edges glow faintly red, then settle into a shared orbit, circling one another until their paths collapse into one. A heartbeat later, a third body joins them, and the new whole lumbers forward, heavier than before. The star flickers in your peripheral vision, each flare tracing shadows across the dust. In that shifting light, the spiral's structure is clear. Long arms feeding inward, matter funneling toward the center like rivers into a vast ocean. You realize that here, Time is not counted in hours or years, but in revolutions each, slow turn and age, each collision a milestone. Farther out, you pass a fragment studied with crystals, its facets scattering light into fragile rainbows. The surface is rough, but in one hollow you catch the glint of Issa promise tucked inside a stone. In the cold beyond, there are more of these icy wanderers, their frozen cargo safe from the stars' heat. For now, the spiral narrows and the pull grows stronger. Bodies that once drifted freely now align in careful orbits, each one tugged by the others in an invisible web. The hum deepens until it is all you feel. In its rhythm, you sense a clock without hands, a measurement older than memory, dot near the center. The collisions are slower, but more massive. Here, worlds are not born with fire and roar, but with the soft patience of stone pressing into stone. A curved horizon begins to take shape below you, a patchwork surface of rock and metal, still molten in places, its edges rimmed with glowing seams. Wisps of vapor lift from its surface, curling away before being swept into the greater whirl. The heat rises as you drift lower, until you can almost taste iron in the air. Shapes form along the horizon, ridges, hollows, shadows shifting in the molten light. The planet 2B does not yet know its oceans, its storms, its skies, but it carries the weight of all of them already. Somewhere beyond the glow, the rest of the disk still turns, feeding this forming world with each slow spiral. The dust that once floated freely now moves with purpose, every grain bound to a future it cannot see. You hover just above the surface, watching molten plains shift like breathing skin. In the molten glow, something shimmers small, glinting, and turning slowly as if aware of you. It turns again, catching a thread of light that shouldn't be. There, the light bends away at an impossible angle, as though refusing to reach your eyes directly. Your chest feels heavier, not from fear, but from the strange pull that begins to ripple through your bones. The shimmer recedes, not because it moves, but because space itself stretches between you. The air thickens, or perhaps it isn't air at all, but the shape of time curling inward. Above you, the stars no longer twinkle, they lean, drawn toward a single, silent point. It's like watching water pour over an invisible ledge, a vast cosmic waterfall where the spray is made of bent light and unspent moments. You drift toward it, the molten plains falling away beneath you like a dream that has decided it no longer needs you. The pull is not violent. It is patient, like the ocean tide coaxing a grain of sand from the shore. You sense that no matter how gently you resist, resistance itself is a concept that will not survive here. The edge appears without announcement, a horizon with no color, no surface, no line. Only the sudden awareness that on the other side, nothing escapes. You've heard of such places in waking life, but this is different. The boundary isn't an end. It's a soft seam in the fabric of reality, where threads slip loose and are gathered into something unseen. Sound behaves oddly here. Your own breath feels muted, as though every exhale is swallowed before it leaves your lips. Somewhere deep in the dark, a low resonance hums, not from the black hole itself, but from the way space-time quivers under its weight. The hum is steady, ancient, and impossibly far, yet you feel it through your fingertips as if it were woven into your skin. Gravity, here, is no longer a direction. It is an agreement your body makes with the universe. You will go where it decides. Even the glinting object you saw before obeys, turning lazily as it falls toward the same unseen center. Its surface flashes in warped intervals, stretched and slowed like a heartbeat heard through water. You realize that the light you see now is already old. It left that object seconds ago by its own measure. But by the time it reached you, it had aged centuries in the curve of this space. Your own movements are being rewritten, every step drawn longer, every gesture stretched thin until they are almost unrecognizable to anyone outside this gravity well. Your thoughts begin to slow, but not in the way sleep slows them. Here, slowness is sharp-edged, each idea taking more time to form because time itself is being unraveled and rewoven. The edges of your vision deepen, not in darkness, but in density. Stars beyond the horizon fade into elongated smears, like paint dragged across the sky by an unseen brush. And then, without realizing when it happened, you cross the threshold. The sensation is not falling, it's more like entering a room, where the air is heavier, but kind, and every wall curves away before you can touch it. You feel as though you are inside the bend of a great bowstring, the tension drawn but never released. The pull is absolute, yet strangely intimate. Nothing here is rushed, even though you know that outside whole epochs could pass in the time. It takes you to blink. There is no turning back, but the phrase feels meaningless. Backward and forward lose their shape here. The only motion that remains is inward. You sense the object again, closer now, its details sharpening in the strange curved light. It is not metal, not stone, but something older, smoother, with grooves spiraling in patterns that make your thoughts stumble. The grooves are not decoration. They are records, carved by forces, patient enough to write in the language of centuries. A flicker moves across its surface, your own reflection, impossibly delayed, as though you were seeing yourself moments after you were here. The reflection smiles faintly before you do, and for a moment you wonder if you've passed yourself along the way. Two versions crossing paths inside a corridor made of time. The hum deepens, pressing gently at your ribs. You think you can hear words in it now, not spoken but suggested, syllables shaped by the geometry of the horizon itself. They do not tell you where you are going, only that you were always meant to be moving. Toward it the light around you thins, becoming more a texture than a brightness. It brushes across your skin like cool mist. Beyond it, there is nothing to see, yet the nothing feels crowded, as though countless unseen things share this inward path with you. Your pace quickens without motion. Every part of you is drawn toward the singularity, but the distance never seems to close. The shimmer ahead becomes your only anchor, a point of recognition in a place where direction itself has surrendered, and as you reach for it, your hand passes through the light that still carries your own shape from moments ago. The light folds away like fabrics slipping through invisible hands, leaving only the weightless dark. You feel the absence as though a cord has been cut, and then another pull, not from behind, but ahead. Somewhere in the distance, across a gulf stitched with bent constellations, a second gravity calls to you. It is almost the same as the one you've been circling for what feels like forever, but there's a difference, subtle and disquieting. Its darkness is not empty. It has texture, like polished stone worn by countless tides. Its edges blur against the stars, as if space itself cannot decide where it begins. You realize it's not just a mirror, it's an answer. Between the two pulls, the fabric of space draws tight, a filament trembling in silence. The stars caught in this line seem to slow, their light stretched into thin ribbons that waver in the invisible current. You take a step forward and feel the drag of two forces shaping the same moment, their tides overlapping. Your own body begins to notice the warping. Distances stop making sense. A single step feels like it both lengthens and shortens the space between your feet. The black hole you have known looms behind you, and this new one waits ahead. Each curve of their horizons bending the light until the sky becomes a hall of shifting mirrors. There is no sound, but there is a vibration not in the air, but in you. It starts deep in your bones, a low rhythm that seems to belong to both gravity wells at once. It feels like a signal, but it carries no message, only inevitability. The two forces are moving, drawn by their own hunger. A slow convergence that nothing can unwrite. You sense the history of their path, centuries of solitary orbits through the galaxy, each dragging its invisible sea, scattering starlight in arcs too wide for memory. And now, somehow, they have found each other. The universe has no stage for this, but here, no moment for it, but now dot. The filament of space between them tightens further. Time feels different here, heavier, slower, as if it's being pulled from both ends. You wonder if you are standing inside the very stretch of time itself, the place where it is thinnest, where the moments you know could snap ahead. The second black hole's edge seems to ripple, not in motion, but in some deeper truth. The light that falls into it doesn't just vanish, bends in strange, spiraled paths before crossing the horizon. You think of two great tides meeting in the middle of an ocean, their waves colliding, breaking, merging into something new. The vibration deepens, and you feel your balance shifting without moving at all. The gravity behind you and the gravity ahead begin to braid together, not in space but in your perception. The stars beyond warp into crescents and arcs, some brightening, others fading into impossible shadows, and then motion, not yours, but theirs. The two dark giants drift closer, their invisible atmospheres overlapping like the first touch of two vast, unseen hands. The filament between them is no longer still. It quivers with an energy you can feel in your ribs. You imagine what will happen when they meet. Space folding into itself, light slingshotting in desperate spirals, waves of gravity rippling outward into every corner of the cosmos. The collision will not be an explosion, will be an absorption, a merging of two infinities into one. And you, caught here in the middle, will feel it not as destruction, but as a kind of completion. The pull becomes harder to resist. Your steps are no longer your own. They are guided, balanced between the two wells, like a bead sliding along a wire. You wonder if there is a place to stand when the meeting comes, or if you will be taken into whichever horizon claims you first. The light around you begins to change color. It thins into deep reds and smoky golds, stretched by the gravity into threads so fine they almost disappear. The stars along the filament wink out one by one, as if retreating before what they know is coming, and still they draw closer. You can see their horizons, now circles of absolute night, beginning to distort, leaning toward each other like shadows reaching across a floor. The space between them is no longer empty. It shimmers faintly, a sign that even the vacuum is being altered. You take a breath, and the air feels denser, as though the gravity is pressing against each molecule. There's a faint taste of metal on your tongue, though there's no air to taste. The vibration has risen in pitch, not louder, but sharper, threading through every part of you, and then, without sound or warning, a flicker passes through the line between them. For a fraction of a moment, you see something there not light, not matter, but a distortion that feels alive, as if the fabric itself has begun to breathe. You don't know if it's a signal or simply the beginning, but it's closer now. You feel it before you see it, a shiver in the world beneath you, as though the floor of reality has learned how to breathe. The air doesn't move, yet something around you sways in a rhythm too vast to follow. The silence deepens, not like the absence of sound, but like a note being pulled lower and lower until it slips beyond hearing. Far ahead, the darkness folds back on itself, revealing a horizon that curves inward. Two shapes hang there, not stars, not planets, but colossal wells of black, drinking light without spilling it. They drift toward one another in stately inevitability, their edges blurring, bending the space between them like molten glass. Being drawn together, you don't hear them, you can't hear them, yet every step you take hums through your bones. The ground is not still, it moves in slow, impossible ripples, expanding outward from where those two giants approach. The waves pass through you without resistance, stretching you thinner than thought, compressing you tighter than breath, before releasing you again. The closer the black holes draw, the more the world around you seems to flex. Stars far above lean slightly, their positions bending as if watching this meeting from across a warped sheet. You look down at your hands and see them shimmer, their edges quivering, not from cold or fear, but from the way the very scaffolding of space is, undulating. There's a pulse to it now, almost like a heartbeat, not yours, not theirs, but something shared between all things. It rolls through your chest, through the strange sky, through the dust that hangs motionless except when the wave passes. It's the same kind of quiet that fills a cathedral when no one is speaking, yet you can still feel the weight of what's about to happen. You step closer, though you can't say how far the path stretches. Each ripple changes the scale, drawing the horizon in, then pushing it away. The two black holes are vast, but not chaotic. They move with grace, like dancers who have rehearsed this meeting for billions of years. Light passing near them is twisted into arcs and loops, fragments of distant galaxies smeared into luminous ribbons. These luminous streaks are drawn into spirals, wrapping the giants in veils of bent starlight. The ripples grow stronger. The air, if it is air, now carries a deepening pressure, one you don't resist, because it isn't pressing on you. It's pressing through you, somewhere. A memory surfaces unbidden, the way deep bells toll in fog, how the sound becomes a touch before it's a tone. The sensation is the same here, but vaster, an unvoiced resonance passing through the whole of you. You imagine every atom in your body rocking gently back and forth in sympathy with the waves. The giants are nearly touching now, and the space between them is no longer space. It's a whirl of distorted reality, a funnel of invisible motion. The waves sharpen, not in volume, but in clarity. You feel each one in perfect sequence, the slow rise, the swift plunge, the long stretch before the next. You realize you've been holding your breath, though breathing doesn't seem to matter here. Every ripple feels like an answer to a question you didn't know you had, as though the universe has been speaking all along. But only now are you moving slow enough to hear. The final approach is so drawn out that it feels outside of time. The ripples come faster, carrying with them a strange exhilaration, like running downhill in a dream. You can't tell if you're still walking forward, or if the waves are carrying you closer. And then, without sound, the two black holes merge, For a moment, the darkness at their center swallows everything, not violently, but with the quiet certainty of ink absorbing water. The waves surge outward in their purest form yet, as if the universe itself is exhaling after a long, silent strain. One of those waves passes through you, and for an instant you feel both infinitely heavy and weightless. The stars above seem to jump, subtly shifting in their positions, as though the sky itself has been nudged. When the sensation fades, the single, larger black hole hangs motionless ahead, wrapped in the last spirals of bent light. The ripples are still moving outward, carrying this moment far beyond sight. Somewhere inside you, the pulse lingers, not in your chest, but in the space around it, and in the distance, just beyond the last trembling arc of starlight, something else stirs. It shifts like a shadow caught in honey, moving slower than your eyes expect. At first, you think it's far away, but the way its outline drags and bends makes the distance feel uncertain, like the horizon itself is stalling. You take a step forward, and the step seems to stretch. The heel lands quickly, but the toe takes forever to follow. The air thickens. It does not resist you, it simply lingers, holding each movement until it feels complete. Even your breath begins to arrive late, as if the act of inhaling must cross a long, invisible bridge before it reaches your lungs. Ahead, the light changes character. Starlight here is swollen, its flicker slowed to a patient pulse. Between one heartbeat and the next, a whole eternity seems to stand and listen. You realize you're watching time itself deepen, pooling in the hollow of this place like water in a tide pool. The surface is still, but everything beneath it moves with impossible patience. There is a shape resting at the center, a mass so dense it bends the space around it like a bowl cupping water. Not a star, not a planet, but something heavier, stranger. Your mind tries to name it, but the word slips away before it forms. The closer you walk, the more your own thoughts drag, syllables unraveling into stretched sound. A tiny particle of dust floats past your face. You watch it fall in slow descent, spinning lazily as if gravity itself has agreed to take the long way down. The stillness is not silence. It is a hum you feel in your bones, a constant reminder that somewhere beyond this point, time is racing. On without you, your hands feel heavier. Each gesture ripples outward in syrupy echoes, the air folding back reluctantly to let you through. The more you notice it, the more it feels as though you're underwater, yet there is no water, only this strange suspension. You begin to wonder if your own heartbeat has slowed, or if the rest of the universe has simply accelerated away. The mass ahead tilts, or perhaps you tilt toward it. Space curves, subtly, an unseen slope you now find yourself descending. You realize you are falling without falling, drawn toward the heart of this dilation. Somewhere in its gravity, seconds stretch so wide they could hold entire lifetimes. A glint catches your eye, a fragment of light bent nearly in half. It wavers in place, unable to escape, trapped in an orbit so slow you could walk beside it. You reach out. Your fingers brush the edge of its glow, and in that instant, the warmth seems to last forever. The ground beneath you is dark glass, rippling like the surface of a dream. Every step sends rings outward that do not fade. They only drift away, until distance swallows them. You think of tides, of oceans that breathe in hours instead of moments. You think of the moon's slow pull, and how even here, something is pulling at you in ways you can't name. As you approach the center, the shape begins to hum, not with sound, but with inevitability. Your skin tingles with the knowledge that this place does not care for minutes or hours. It has its own measure, one you cannot carry back. You pause. Above you, the stars near the horizon seem to quicken, while those directly overhead stand almost still. You wonder if you've already crossed a threshold, if somewhere in the distance your own reflection is moving faster than you, living out the seconds you've left behind. A single ripple passes through the glass dark floor. It comes from the center, not toward you, but outward, as if some unseen tide has just shifted. You feel it in your chest, a long exhale, and then another. The shape in the center turns again, slower this time. Your foot hovers in the air longer than it should, and when it touches down, the ground seems to lean toward what waits ahead. The surface beneath you is not flat but faintly breathing, as if it exhales between each step you take. Its texture shifts without warning, smooth, then granular, then so soft it feels like you're walking on the echo of a sound. The light ahead trembles, not in fear but in defiance of staying in one place. You try to fix your gaze on it, but the moment you do, it slips, now hovering far to your left, now directly in front of you again. It is the same shape, the same pale shimmer, but the distance keeps changing, as though the space between you is folding and unfolding like cloth. The air grows thinner, but not from lack of oxygen, rather from the absence of certainty. There is no sense of here or there, only a quiet suggestion of both. The shimmer blinks, and for an instant, you are sure you see two of them, one drifting above a ridge of black glass, the other hanging low over a pool of still water. Both seem equally real, equally reachable. You move toward the nearer one, but halfway there, the ground slips sideways. No, not the ground, you. Your position has shifted without the courtesy of motion. The second shimmer is suddenly closer. So close you can see faint threads of light unfurling from it, curling upward like smoke. It's not indecision. The light is not choosing. It is existing in all its possible locations, unapologetically. A soft breeze brushes your cheek, though you're not sure which direction it comes from. It could be two winds at once. You kneel beside the nearest shimmer. In its glow, the surface beneath you reveals a pattern, concentric ripples carved into the ground, as if the place has been resonating to the same invisible tone for centuries. The ripples extend outward and vanish into the shadow where the other shimmer hovers. When you glance at that second glow, a strange pull tugs behind your eyes, a pressure that feels like wanting, not desire for the thing itself, but desire to be in both places with it. You stand, and without moving your feet, you feel the other location wrap around you like a second skin. The two shimmers overlap for a breath. Your surroundings bend in quiet protest, colors deepening at the edges as if the world has been momentarily duplicated. For a heartbeat, you can sense two versions of yourself, one kneeling in the ripple light, one standing by the still pool. And they are both you, sharing the same pulse. It does not feel wrong. It feels like remembering something you had been taught to forget, that there was never a rule about being only one thing, in only one place, that the narrow corridor of singular existence was simply the easiest story to tell. Somewhere, a sound, like a bell dipped in water, spreads through both versions of you. The shimmers swell brighter, their edges blurring until they no longer have a boundary at all. In that light, you notice small particles drifting, specks of dust, but sharper, each glinting like it contains an entire sky. They float in patterns you almost recognize, and then they change, becoming arrangements that suggest every pattern at once. You try to step closer, but your body resists, not out of fear, but because closeness feels irrelevant now. The light is already touching you everywhere you could be. The ground's slow breathing steadies beneath your feet, sinking to your own. Your awareness stretches. In one self, you tilt your head toward the sound. In another, you close your eyes and let the glow press against your skin. Both sensations are yours, layered but seamless. The effect is not disorienting, it's clarifying. The world is not asking you to choose a path, only to notice the ones that are already open. The light contracts, not in size but in possibility. One by one, the overlapping locations dissolve, until there is only one shimmer again, hovering in the still air. You feel a subtle ache, as if you've been folded back into a narrower shape, yet the memory of both places lingers like warmth after a fire. Even in the single location, your skin hums with a sense of elsewhere, a reminder that here and there are not rivals, only companions disguised as opposites. The shimmer drifts backward, as though inviting you to follow. But as you step, the edge of your vision catches a flicker, a faint second glow. Far behind you, where there should be none, you don't turn fully toward it. You let it remain in the corner of your sight, twin to the one you follow. The space between them bends in quiet, invisible ways. The path ahead is not straight, neither is the one behind. Somewhere between them you walk, you follow the pull. Though it feels like stepping into the thin seam between mirrors, the ground beneath your feet doesn't change, but its weight does. As if gravity here leans at a fraction of an angle you've never felt before. The air is warm on one side of your face, cool on the other, and you can't tell which direction is forward until the light bends. It's not a single light, but two overlapping, shivering against each other, each casting a different shadow of you onto the floor. The outlines do not match. In one, your hand is curled inward. In the other, it reaches for something you cannot yet see. You move, or at least one of you does. The other hesitates. The sound that follows is not an echo, but a parallel, two versions of the same footstep arriving a breath apart. It's like walking beside a twin you can only sense in the corner of your vision. Around you, the world begins to flex. Buildings that were straight-lined become slightly skewed, their windows misaligned by degrees, as though each belongs to a different memory of architecture. A wind threads through the streets, smelling faintly of rain, but in one current. It's the rain from yesterday, and in the other, the rain from years ahead. Your skin registers both. Somewhere above, two moons slide into position, not identical, but siblings, one pale and cratered, the other luminous with a faint lavender haze. Between them, the sky folds like paper, and a vertical seam of dark opens. You feel it watching, or perhaps measuring. You begin to understand that here you are not fixed. Each gesture spawns another possibility, each blink a subtle divergence. Your breath splits into slightly different rhythms, and you can hear both at once if you stop thinking about which one is yours. You reach the edge of a shallow pool reflecting the moons, but the surface refuses to agree on a single image. One side shows you standing exactly where you are now, head tilted in mild wonder. The other side shows you kneeling, fingertips grazing the water, a choice, you think, but no, a proof. You step closer, and both reflections step too, each with their own timing. Ripples form, one set moving clockwise, the other counterclockwise, weaving together in the center like threads in a loom. The fabric they form is not cloth, but a thin film of stars. The air presses against your shoulders, a nudge from one world, a pull from another. You sense that to move here is to be written twice, maybe more, that each time you draw your hand through the air, somewhere a second you draws it differently, with different meaning. The scent of memory sharpens, petrichor mixed with something like warm metal. You realize it's the trace left by decisions, each burning faintly through the fabric of space. Far down the street, two figures appear, walking toward you in perfect unison until they near the halfway mark. Then, like a mirror, cracking, one veers left, the other right. You can't tell which is looking directly at you. Your heartbeat joins a strange rhythm, not faster, but doubled. You feel it in your wrists, in the hollow at your throat, as if the pulse belongs to two different timelines, and your body is holding both. The figures vanish before reaching you. In their place, two doors stand open, one slightly ajar with golden light spilling out, the other wide with nothing but darkness inside. Both are quiet. You step forward, and your other step backward. A faint hum begins, deep and resonant, the sound of two overlapping realities, vibrating just enough to brush against each other. The air thickens, and you have the distinct sensation that if you speak, both versions of your voice will answer. Above the moons, draw closer until their edges nearly kiss. The seam in the sky pulls taut. Somewhere between your two shadows, the water stirs again, and this time it ripples without your touch. It's as if the ripple has learnt to live on its own. The tremor stretches beneath you, running in directions you can't follow all at once, each shiver branching into more shivers. The floor, if it's still a floor, begins to glow in a thin, diffuse way, like moonlight diluted in water. Shapes appear, strands, lines, filaments so fine you could mistake them for cracks. But they're not cracks, they are connections. You stand, barely breathing, as the ground loses its weight. The air seems to remember its own transparency, and the darkness thins into a deep blue void. The glowing lines spread outward, crossing, intersecting, splitting apart again. Where they knot together, small bursts of light hover, warm and golden, like lanterns seen from 1,000 miles away. You know they're not lanterns. You know they are worlds. Each line hums faintly, a tone almost too low to hear. You can feel it more than you can listen to it, a vibration settling into your ribs, syncing with your heartbeat. You place your foot on one strand and it bends, not down but sideways, as though space has its own quiet elasticity. The glow follows your step, running along the thread until it fades into the distance. Clusters of light emerge in the far reaches, groups of glowing knots linked by these luminous roads. A wind that isn't wind moves along them, carrying a faint scent of iron and rain. You try to look away, but there is no away anymore. The pattern wraps around you in all directions. The network isn't beneath you now. It is around you. Some of the threads are thin, trembling like spun glass. Others are thick, braided from countless finer strands, pulsing faintly. You sense they are not made of light alone. They hold weight, history, movement, somewhere far. Along one glowing road, you catch the faintest flicker, like a signal passing between galaxies. You step forward. The thread bends but holds, the surface taut and smooth under your weight. The moment you cross over one of the knots, the view shifts, distance changes, shape, and the nearest cluster becomes far, while the farthest folds close. Time itself seems braided into the structure. The connections are not straight, they spiral, arc, and loop. Binding regions of light in invisible geometry, a thought drifts into you, not your own, but carried along the humming lines. Nothing exists alone. The words don't sound in your ears, they arrive in your bones. You wonder if the web is speaking, or if you are just remembering what it already knows. In the distance, you spot a region where the threads converge in an intricate weave, denser than anything else in view. The light there is so bright it spills over the strands like molten metal, pouring down toward other clusters. You can almost see movement, slow, deliberate currents of matter and light flowing along the filaments. The hum deepens. One by one, the threads nearest you begin to brighten, as though sensing your direction. The glow grows warm enough to touch, and when your fingertips graze it, you feel no heat, only the memory of heat, like holding something that was warm long ago. The threads respond, vibrating faster, carrying your presence outward. Somewhere unseen, other knots must now know you are here. You walk, and the space between steps feels longer than the steps themselves. Every so often, a thread beneath you trembles with something traveling along it, a pulse of light rushing past your feet, vanishing into the vast weave. The sensation makes you think of messages passing in silence, of invisible conversations held between galaxies. Then, without warning, the threads around you begin to sway. At first, you think it's from your own movement, but the rhythm is too wide, too slow, like a tide rolling through a net that spans all of space. The sway becomes a wave, traveling along every connection you can see. In the distance, knots flare brighter, one after another, as if the web has caught something. The air thickens with unseen tension. You hold your balance as the wave passes. Under your feet, then over your head, then into every direction at once. The glow dims slightly, as though the web is drawing its energy inward. When it steadies again, you notice something new. A faint path dimmer than the rest, almost hidden, stretches off from your position, leading into an emptier region of the weave. It doesn't seem to connect to any bright clusters. Instead, it curves into a deep shadow where the threads vanish into nothing. You hesitate. The hum here is quieter, but sharper, like a note held in the back of the throat. The rest of the network glows softly behind you, vast and welcoming. Yet the dim path pulls at you in a way you can't name. Somewhere far ahead, where the thread fades into darkness, a single point of light blinks once, faint, deliberate. Then it disappears. You take a step toward it, and the web shifts underfoot. It tightens, trembling like a drumskin stretched to its last breath, each filament catching the light in brief, sharp flashes. The air here feels different, thinner, quieter, as if every sound you've ever known has been sifted out, leaving only the weight of your own heartbeat. The surface ahead curves upward, vanishing into a pale horizon that isn't really a horizon at all. It's too smooth, too absolute. Your eyes can't quite focus on it. They slide off as if the curve resists the act of being seen. The faint hum you felt earlier travels up through your soles, a steady vibration, neither warm nor cold, something older than temperature. You keep walking, though the web resists now, strands pulling back as if reluctant to let you near the curve. It occurs to you that this resistance is not about you. It's the web holding its own shape, the way the skin of a bubble clings to the air it holds. Through the surface, faint shadows ripple, not images, not motion exactly, but something like memory pressed into light. Then you notice it. The dark beyond isn't truly dark. It's speckled with a dust so fine it could be mistaken for static, each grain glowing faintly, evenly spaced, as if scattered by an unseen hand. You've seen night skies before, but never this. The pattern here feels final, complete, as though no new light will ever join it. You press your palm to the surface. The texture is impossibly fine, like the smoothest glass laced with the faintest vibration. It hums against your skin, not in response to your touch, but in its own rhythm, ancient and unchanging. Somewhere in the vibration is a low, endless note, too deep to hear but felt in the space behind your ribs. A thought slips in, uninvited. You're touching the edge of what can be known, not just by you, but by anything. The curve in front of you is the farthest the universe has ever spoken, its first breath still ringing in the fabric of everything. That grainy dust beyond is the echo of that breath, stretched thin over billions of years until it became the faint background glow. Now, pressing softly against your hand, you lean closer, trying to see beyond, but the curve bends space itself, folding the farthest light away from you. The web beneath your feet creaks, not breaking, but warning. Every step forward sends small ripples outward, bending the reflections in strange, impossible ways. For a moment, the static beyond the curve flickers. You think you see movement, a faint spiraling, like two currents meeting in an unseen sea. You blink, and it's gone. The hum in the surface swells slightly, like a heartbeat adjusting its rhythm to yours. You remember something you've never lived, standing in an endless field at dawn, watching the sun rise for the very first time, knowing it would set and never return. The memory is heavy and light at once, like the air before a storm. Your fingertips begin to tingle. The hum becomes clearer, like a single note drawn out on a string that spans the whole universe. You can almost separate it into layers, one high and fragile, another low and steady, and beneath them both a faint, irregular pulse, as if something far away is knocking gently. You close your eyes, and the knocking becomes clearer. Not sound, not light, more like the space inside you responding to the space outside. The curve is not just a barrier, it's a conversation, one that has been going on since time began, carried in waves, too slow for most to notice. When you open your eyes again, the pattern of static has shifted. It's subtle, but unmistakable. The grains have formed a faint, curved line, mirroring the shape of your own outstretched fingers. You don't know if it's reflection or recognition, but the idea that it might be both makes you hesitate. The web strains slightly under your weight, as if urging you to choose. Stay and keep your hand where it is, or press harder and see if the curve will let you through. Far in the distance, beyond the static, you see it again, that spiral movement, faint but persistent. Two small distortions circling each other, slow as glaciers, patient as tides. Their paths curve toward one another, bending the static around them, pulling light itself into their orbit. You watch, transfixed, as they drift closer, their edges just beginning to touch. The hum deepens. The knocking grows softer. The air between your palm and the surface feels thinner, as though the barrier is no longer entirely there. And somewhere inside you, a place you didn't know existed until this moment. There's the sense that once you move your hand, the pattern will not return to what it was. The spiral turns again, and for the briefest instant, you feel the pull of it, as if the two distant shapes are not just bending space, but bending you, and then the web beneath your feet shifts once more, not away from you, but forward. The strands carry you into a thickness you didn't notice before, a hush that feels deeper than silence, as if even the idea of sound has not yet been invented here. The web glimmers faintly under you, then dims, and you realize it's not the threads themselves that shine, but what is beginning to gather between them. The air, or something like it, feels warm for the first time. Not the warmth of a sun or a fire, but the slow kind that seeps through you without source or direction, the way heat moves in a dream. Around you, the black swells gently, no edges, no corners, just a smooth ocean of waiting. You sense it's not emptiness, but a place filled, so completely that there's no space for movement yet. A faint shimmer wavers ahead, like the inside of a soap bubble trying to decide whether to exist. You drift toward it without effort. In the distance, particles too small to see, yet somehow visible, drift into pairs and trios, touching and letting go, touching again. They seem unsure, but the hesitation is fading. You feel it before you understand it. The first agreements, hydrogen, helium, tiny building blocks, deciding to hold together. The great scattering that was, has slowed, cooled. What was wild and untethered now lingers long enough to form bonds, and in the instant those bonds become real. Something else stirs. It starts as a pulse in the space around you, soft, irregular, as if testing its own rhythm. Then a faint golden haze blooms, thin as breath. You watch it expand, weaving through the dark like silk unspinning. It is not a beam or a spark. It is light that has been waiting since before light could be free. The warmth deepens. You realize it has been here all along, locked in a dense embrace with matter, unable to travel, unable to be seen. Now, with the universe loosening its hold, it slips into motion. Everywhere, the glow spreads, not bright, not sudden, but infinite. It touches the web, the particles, the nothing in between. It touches you. It does not ask to be looked at. It simply exists, and in doing so, allows the cosmos to be seen for the first time. The colors are not the ones you know. They shift to, slowly, stretching as they move, turning from white to amber, from amber to something older than gold. They are not made to illuminate, but to carry memory, the record of every collision, every joining, every breathless pause in this newborn. Expanse. You drift through the haze, and the web beneath you becomes less distinct. The light doesn't push you forward. It carries you without direction, the way a tide carries a leaf. You sense no boundary to its reach. It will continue long after you've gone, long after everything here has changed shape 1,000 times. Somewhere beyond the glow, new patterns begin to flicker. Not stars yet, but shadows where stars might one day form. The light bends around them gently, as if recognizing something it cannot pass through but must respect. You realize this light is not here for you, not in the way things later will be. It is simply here, because the laws of this place now allow it, and yet, without it, nothing could find its way. The warmth hums in your chest, a resonance so low it feels like a second heartbeat. You follow it, though it is everywhere at once. It seems to draw the edges of the cosmos wider, making room for what comes next. You pass through a place where the glow thickens, and for a moment it feels almost solid, as if you could take a handful and keep it with you. But it slips through your fingers in slow streams, content to belong only to itself. Far ahead, the haze thins, and something darker than the dark you've known begins to take shape. It is not the absence of light, but the shaping of it. Gravity beginning to pull threads together, folding the glow into secret places. The warmth shifts, replaced by a quiet pull toward that deepening shadow. You can't tell if the web beneath your feet still moves, or if you've left it entirely. The haze follows, trailing behind you like a memory that will never fade. The pull deepens, and the light thins to a soft edge. The space before you bends in a way that makes the glow hesitate, curving inward as if drawn to a center it cannot escape. And there, barely visible at first, another darkness moves toward it. The second shadow drifts closer, its outline wavering, as though even the light it swallows is uncertain of its path. Between the two shapes, space seems to slow, the stars behind them blurring into pale streaks that refuse to fade. You feel the pull, not as a force on your body, but as a deep rearrangement of the air inside your lungs. They meet without sound. No collision, no burst of light, just a sudden stillness, like two notes in a song deciding never to resolve. In that hush, you notice something far away beginning to shine. It is not brighter than the rest, but more deliberate. Its light, stretched thin like silk over glass. You drift toward it, though your movement feels less like travel and more like being invited. The star ahead is wrong. Wrong in a way that makes you feel the outline of your own heartbeat. Its fire is still there, but unmoving, frozen mid-surge, every flare locked into place like a sculptor's final gesture. Even its heat seems trapped, beneath its own skin, unable to reach you as you draw near. You see the surface is pale, almost white, with faint crystalline lines running in delicate webs. The texture is like frost on a window, but these patterns sink deep into the star's body, each branching filament a record of where its light once flowed. You realize you're looking at motion fossilized in real time. The air, if this place has air, carries a kind of brittle clarity. It reminds you of winter nights on Earth, when the cold is so precise it seems to etch the stars sharper against the dark. But here, the cold is not weather, it is finality. This star is not dying, in a blaze or a collapse. It has already passed through all that and entered a state beyond change, where even decay has ended. You drift closer still, until the surface fills your vision. Shadows of ancient solar flares rise in frozen arcs, each one a sculpture of energy. Caught in mid-flight, they reach out like hands that never complete the gesture, locked in an endless half-second. You wonder if the star knows, if stars can know that it has been stilled forever. A flicker catches your attention. Not movement, there is no movement here, but a shift in hue, a faint bluish glint where the frost-like lattice bends. The light, for an instant, it feels like the star is looking back at you, not as a living thing, but as a record, a memory embedded in matter. You sense it has seen the birth of galaxies, the silent drift of planets without suns, the slow cooling of everything. The idea of heat without warmth settles into you. You think of the energy inside your own body, the constant quiet burning in your cells, and wonder if one day it too will become a sculpture, locked and perfect but unreachable. You stretch a hand toward the star, though you know you can't touch it. The distance between you and its surface is immeasurable, yet somehow you feel a pressure at your fingertips, like the suggestion of glass. The star offers no resistance, but also no welcome. It is simply there, unchanging as the rest of the universe moves on without it. Far off, beyond the frozen corona, you notice other pale shapes. Dozens, maybe hundreds, scattered across the black like pearls that have lost their luster. An entire graveyard of stars, each one a monument to a fire that could not keep burning. They are not tragic, not mournful, just enduring the way mountains endure, or bones in deep earth. The thought makes you strangely calm. If endings can be like this, quiet, suspended, without violence, perhaps time is not always a thief. Perhaps it can be a sculptor. Something shifts behind you, a ripple in the dark, faint but deliberate, as if space itself is bending to make way for something vast. You turn, and for a moment, the frozen star glints in a way that feels almost like a signal. You hold still, listening for whatever is about to arrive. But nothing comes, not in the way you expect. There is no step, no breath, no faint shiver of air. The sound that greets you is softer than silence, as if the world has exhaled its final note and decided not to take another. Light falls without angle or source, bleaching the edges of things until even edges feel imaginary. The floor beneath you has no texture, no temperature you can name, yet you sense warmth seeping into your bones, a warmth too steady to belong to any sun. Shapes you once knew drift at the margins of sight, not fading into darkness, but into a kind of endless brightness, as if the shadows have been erased from the rules. You try to move, but your motion doesn't ripple outward. The air swallows it whole. Even your heartbeat feels less like a drum and more like a single tone drawn out across an immeasurable span. The warmth deepens, not in heat, but in certainty. Somewhere in the architecture of this place, the last gradients are evening out. No cold, no hot, no climb or fall. Just the perfect balance that nothing alive ever truly survives. The air carries the same temperature as your skin. The ground offers no resistance. You walk, but the act of walking is strange here. There is no shadow to chase or escape from, no flicker of change to mark each step. You cannot tell if you are crossing a vast plain or circling the same invisible center. Only the light changes, subtly, the way an ancient star dims when its fuel runs out. Not in drama, but in surrender. In the distance, if distance even exists, there's a structure, or the idea of one. It wavers like heat haze. Yet there is no heat wave, no air to bend the light. You approach, and it doesn't grow larger. Instead, it becomes more certain in its shape. A frame without walls, a doorway without a door. The simplest geometry that could still be called a boundary. When you pass through it, you feel an absence so complete it might be a form of touch. Here, the air is indistinguishable from you. The ground and your body share the same quiet temperature. Even your thoughts feel slower, as though they are dissolving into the background. The science of it is buried in sensation. Every spark in every atom wearing itself down. Every restless particle surrendering to sameness. No more unevenness to drive a wind. No more imbalance to tell time by. Without difference, movement is a rumor. Without movement, memory phrase. You think about the word forever, but it feels too sharp for this place. Forever implies a line, and here there are no lines. No before or after, only the wide level plain of an unending now. Somewhere in that endlessness, you feel something change, not in temperature, not in light, but in the texture of awareness. Itself a dim pulse, not unlike the echo of a long-forgotten signal, stirs in the stillness. It does not disturb the balance, but it marks it like a faint indentation in untouched sand. You wait for it to repeat, and when it does, barely there, you can't tell if it's coming from outside or inside, or whether such a distinction even exists anymore. The warmth holds you steady, yet that flicker is a direction. You follow it without thinking, your steps falling into an almost perfect rhythm, so perfect it feels rehearsed. The air bends subtly around you, as if you're walking through a corridor made of curved glass. Shadows drift in gentle arcs, never quite settling where they should. Each one a faint echo of itself, slightly ahead or behind. The ground tilts, without warning, though your body remains upright, as if the space around you is folding to meet your balance. A faint light glimmers ahead, pale and soft, like dawn seen through deep water. It seems closer each time you blink, though you've taken no more than a single step. Your breath fogs, not from cold, but from a density in the air, particles slowed and gathered, like clouds of time itself condensed into mist. You see motes, within it moving in patterns, spirals that close into themselves, shapes looping back to their origin. Each swirl reminds you of galaxies curling inward, or perhaps something smaller. The way a droplet trembles before falling, a sound finds you then, low and continuous, as if the fabric of this place hums to keep itself intact. The pitch deepens. The farther you go, until it's less a note and more a sensation in your bones. It draws you into a widening chamber, its edges hidden behind veils of distortion, where light bends around unseen anchors. At the center, two black voids hang in the air, not holes in space, but perfect, devouring curves where the world bends too far to return. They face each other like mirrors without reflections, and between them a thread of brilliance stretches and writhes, pulled tight yet fluid. You realize the light isn't moving from one to the other. It's moving in both directions at once. Your pulse slows to match some hidden rhythm. The chamber breathes with you, or you with it. Each inhale sharpens the image of the twin voids. Each exhale blurs them back into shadow. You step closer, and the ground beneath you repeats itself, the same pattern of cracks, the same tiny glimmer of mineral in the stone. Again and again, like walking across a single moment replayed endlessly. You reach out, though you don't. Remember deciding to. Your hand stops just short of the thread between the voids. It sways toward you, as if sensing a return. The closer it comes, the more your surroundings fold in, not collapsing, but curling back. The horizon curving like the rim of a great loop. And then you see it, your own footprints ahead of you, faint but undeniable, leading directly toward. Where you stand now, they are fresh, yet you cannot recall making them. You place your foot inside the nearest one, and the chamber shivers. The twin voids draw closer to each other, the thread tightening, the hum deepening until it vibrates through your teeth. Light bends in improbable arcs, touching points that moments ago were far apart. You feel the pull not toward the future or past, but into a shape that contains both. A loop closes somewhere you cannot see. The flicker ahead of you sharpens, and you know it is the same flicker you first followed here, the one that began this step, and perhaps all the steps before. And just as the two black curves begin to merge, the air presses gently against your face, like the edge of a turning page. It is not wind. It is the weight of the universe rearranging itself. The two arcs, vast and silent, bend inward, their edges trembling in slow motion. Between them, the fabric of space itself twists like water circling a drain. There is no color now, only gradients of darkness, shifting in a way that feels like breathing. You do not move forward, yet the space around you flows, drawing you into a place that is neither here nor there. The curves are no longer just shapes. They are rivers of gravity, folding together, their banks dissolving. You think of the way two drops of ink, drifting on a still surface, find each other, touch, and become one. Somewhere deep in the merging dark, a pulse begins. It is not sound. Your ears register nothing, but the rhythm presses against your chest in long, slow waves. Gravitational waves. You realize, though you do not remember learning the term, each pulse is the shape of a breath, not of air, but of space itself, inhaling and exhaling. The waves roll outward in invisible rings, like ripples spreading through the skin of a vast black ocean dot. The closer the curves come, the more you feel your own edges blur. Your fingertips are lighter now, their weight leaking away, as if your body is beginning to understand the rules here. Even the memory of your hands feels less fixed, as though they could be any shape, any distance, any time. Your gaze locks on the place where the blackness folds over itself. It should be terrifying, this convergence of two infinite voids, but there is a strange, deep calm in it. You see it now. They are not destroying each other. They are completing a story that began long before you arrived. The merging slows, the way a clock might seem to hesitate before striking its last chime. The air, or whatever passes for air here, grows dense with unseen threads, drawn tight, trembling with anticipation. Each moment stretches, like molten glass pulled thin. You remember the spiral staircase of galaxies you once walked through, the magnetized rivers of light, the mirror seas where stars swam like fish. All of it feels connected to this, as if the whole journey has been the approach to this single fold in reality. The edges touch, the black curves melt into each other, and in that instant, the universe blinks. A wave passes through you, not pushing, not pulling, but carrying something from deep within the heart of the merge. It is warmth. It flows through your chest and behind your eyes, the way sunlight moves through closed lids on a quiet morning. You feel your thoughts soften, as if every question you've ever held is being laid gently on a table, its edges smoothed, its weight lifted, and then light dot. It is not the blinding flare of stars, but something subtler, more intimate, a halo, that does not shine outward but inward, toward itself. The newly merged black hole, smooth, seamless, whole, wears it like a crown. It is the afterglow of a union so complete that it has no edges, no seams, no difference between what was and what is. You sense, though you cannot see that. This is a new object, heavier than anything before, its gravity singing a slower, deeper song. The soundless pulses widen, their intervals stretching. The universe seems to exhale, and with it, so do you. Somewhere, far beyond the horizon, you. Imagine worlds shifting tiny disturbances in galaxies thousands of light years away, stirred by this single merging moment. The thought comforts you. Even the smallest wave can cross the vastest distances, touching places you will never see. The space around you cools, not in temperature, but in motion. Everything slows until it is almost still. You look down, though. There is no down, and see threads of light falling through the black like soft rain, vanishing before they touch anything. The pull here is different now, less like falling, more like being carried. You realize you are being drawn into the new horizon, though there is no fear in it. It is the kind of pull you feel towards sleep when your body has decided there is no more to do, no more to hold on to. Your memories of the journey return in fragments, the magnetic auroras that hummed like distant choirs, the frozen rivers of starlight you skated across without leaving a mark, the tidal heartbeat of a pulsar's light, calling you closer. All of them seem to fit here. Inside this one moment, as if the black hole's event horizon is not an edge, but an archive. A place where every path eventually folds in. You are close enough now to see your reflection on the surface of the darkness, though it is not your face, but every version of you that has ever been, standing at the doorway of your first discovery, falling asleep under an unfamiliar sky, stepping forward when you did not know where the ground was. The horizon breathes, and with its next breath you step through. There is no crossing. One moment you are outside, the next you are not. The inside is not what you imagined, not crushing or chaotic, but infinite in a way that feels personal. You are in a vast chamber of soft twilight, filled with drifting motes of pale gold light. They move with the rhythm of your own breath, as if they have been waiting for you. In the distance, there is a shape. You move toward it, or it moves toward you, until you recognize it. The first black curve you ever saw on this journey, long ago, before you knew its name. It greets you without words, only a silent acknowledgement that you are part of it now. You realize then that you are not returning. The outside universe will go on, stars will be born, galaxies will dance, but you will remain here, in the timeless center, where two once became one, and the ripples still echo outward. You close your eyes, though they are not needed here. The gravitational waves pass through you one last time, slow and steady, like the beat of a giant sleeping heart. Somewhere in the deep, you let go,